Boom. What's up, fam? Anthony Johnson here today, founder of 21 Studios, 21 Convention, 22 Convention, 21 University, CEO of the Red Man Group, president of the Manosphere. Here with a special episode of 21 Live with the internet's most savage, the most based grandma, the one and only, the beautiful, the lovely, and the feminine, Lori Alexander. She's actually a published author as well. She's author of Biblical Womanhood, a study guide book I just got the other day, and also the author of The Power of the Transformed Wife, of a Transformed Wife. Probably know her from her blog, The Transformed Wife as well, thetransformedwife.com, link in the description. We'll get into a lot in a minute, but I've been following her work for a couple of years, and a really amazing woman doing a lot of good work for young women today. Speaking the truth, things they need to hear that feminists do not want them to hear, that feminists conceal from them. Anyway, without further ado, please let me welcome to the show for the first time ever, Mrs. Lori Alexander. Welcome to the show.
Savage grandma, huh?
Oh, yeah. Oh, by far. I was telling my friends the other day, they were like, I showed them your video we put out that's going like viral on our channel. And they're asking me, like, who is this woman? I'm like, she's the internet's most base grandma, most savage grandma. I think you are. I think that's why the media hates you so much, because you're very feminine and sweet, but you're aggressively pushing truth that is supposed to be concealed from young women today. And I love seeing it. So anyway, I'm really excited to have you on the show. Like I said, I've been following your work for a couple of years now. It inspired my original Make Women Great Again campaign in part. As you probably saw the picture that went famous, I used your meme. We can actually pull it up real quick. I have it right here. And it's men prefer debt-free virgins without tattoos. And I just fell in love with your work when I saw that, because I was like, this woman is so on point and so on target. And it was a foundation for what I want to do, Make Women Great Again, which is like one of my life's missions at this point, when I'm probably most well known for around the world. So I really appreciate your time and all the work that you do. Our channel loves you too. We put out a video the other day, your little video blog, that women are no longer marriage material. Can you actually talk to me about that video, the content, women are no longer marriage material, for the fans that don't know you and stuff?
Can I talk about the content of that video?
Yeah, I just said, yeah, exactly. Ideas in general, that why are women not marriage material today? I agree with you fully, but a lot of people find that very antagonizing, let's say.
Because, as you know, I'm a Christian and I believe God is our creator, and he created male and female. He created us differently, and he created us for different roles. We're equal in value and worth, but we're not equal in talents. Men, I was holding my little 4-month-old grandbaby the other day, and
wow.
We have she has 3 older brothers, and I was holding him. I said, this little baby's going to grow up bigger, stronger, and faster than you someday, because there's a difference. Children whose mothers don't want to submit to their husbands, the children know that dad's in charge. He has a lower voice, more powerful voice. He's bigger, stronger. So even though women don't want to admit that, the children know. The children know. So anyway, God's roles for us are to be feminine, to marry, bear children, guide the home, be homemakers. And our feminism has completely taken that away. They have changed women completely from being what God's role is for them. And that's why we see such a skyrocketing of depression and suicide in women, because they're so far from what their creator has designed for them to be. And women are, in past generations, up until technology, women were forced to be home. I remember watching this show I don't know how many years ago, but it was 2 couples, an old couple and a younger couple. They were put back into the 100 years ago, where there's no technology. And the young woman, I remember her sitting in the kitchen, in the kind of kitchen of 100 years ago, just saying she was so frustrated because she's full on feminist, but she just can't do what the men were doing. They were plowing the fields and doing all the labor. And so she was, she had to do all the chores in the kitchen and cooking and all that kind of stuff. And modern technology has allowed women to not depend on men. And it's funny because men are the ones who built everything that we live in and use, and they've created it all. But don't mention that to them. They'll bring up the 2 women who created something, but men still build it.
You tweeted the other day, that women can only be preachers at all because men created a microphone. Is that the tweet you released the other day? Yeah, that's 100% right. I mean, men have built almost everything in the world.
Yeah.
But women have a special role. Like, I think a lot about the founding fathers. I think they were a great example of masculinity, probably the best in history for America. and beyond, right? But they
Oh
also,
yeah.
but they also had mothers that loved them and cared for them when they were young. I
They
don't
were
know.
all, most of them were homeschooled.
Yeah.
And
So it's like,
kids were cared for their mothers back then. And President Adams, the second president of the United States,
yeah,
said that after his study of all these civilizations that have fallen, they fell when women left modesty and their domestic, their domestic realm. So even he could see that when women leave what God's created them to do, nations fall. We just
yeah,
see that. And Satan goes after men. If he can destroy men, he can destroy nations. And he did that by taking women out of the home, empowering them, feminists. I don't need a man. I can do it. I don't want babies. Because even when
yeah.
I was in college was $3,600 for everything. I didn't want to go to college, but my dad wanted me to kind of drink the
Wow.
feminist Kool-Aid. So I went to college, and there's 8 of us, 8 of my friends, and we all were just in college because we wanted to find a husband. We all just wanted to be married and have kids. We were not interested in a career at all.
That was very common back then too, right? You went to college
Oh yeah.
specifically to find a husband. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I want to do is to find my husband.
Yeah.
We all did. I only have a couple of us graduated from college. Most of them left after a year or two.
Yeah.
I didn't like really anything about college except for my friends. It is just brainwashing of our culture to take women so far. And then women there's this one woman on Instagram cheering that women were given credit application just in 1985 or something. I forget exactly the date. Someone tagged me to it. Transform wife, what do you think about this? And I said, it's a terrible idea. 2/3 of the some $800 billion debt is owed by women.
Yep.
Our culture was so much better when we were living within our means and what we could afford. This debt and women just being able to spend way beyond what they need or want is just
It's
destructive.
really sad. Like you mentioned, how things are different back when you're. Let me ask you this: how things are different, right? You're like say in your 60s, right?
62.
62. I'm 32. So my experience of America is much
My youngest daughter is your age.
Oh yeah, she's single.
She just had her 4th baby.
Oh, never mind.
Oh,
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Both my daughters are very happily married.
Nice. Good. Excellent. Keep them out of trouble. Exactly.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you though, so my experience of America at earliest is the 1990s. And even that to me is so different from what we see now. But you saw America in the 80s and the 70s long before me. What were American women like back in your youth? Like you mentioned a little bit here with college, but can you expand beyond that? Was homemaking and motherhood a little bit more prioritized? Was it more normal back then?
You know what? When I went to a big D1 high school and everyone was sleeping around with each other. All my friends, even my Christian friends, were sleeping together, taking drugs, alcohol. There wasn't that homosexuality and the transgenderism back then. And you know what? I would go to my friends' houses and they would be empty because their moms would be at work. Everyone loved being at my mom's house because she always had a lot of food. She was warm and friendly. Everyone wanted to be at our house. So no, even that was back in the 70s because it was after the 60s. Once the 60s hit, women really left the home, the sexual revolution and everything. So I was never raised in a time where my dad never wanted my mom to work. She was always home with us. She was always available for us, no matter what. I always knew she was. All 3 of us have been talking, my sisters and I, about how secure we always felt loved and secure because of that. My dad came home every night. He took us to church every week. He was there on the weekends. And so we had that, but a lot of my friends didn't. And I was thinking about my high school friends, and I think all of them have been divorced. My college friends, on the other hand, there's 8 of them. It was a Christian school. They were all raised in Christian homes, raised by mothers, full-time mothers who cooked, cleaned, the dads were the providers. They're all married still to this day, 40 years. Yeah. So they still, but now my kids were telling me that one of my daughters was telling me that in her Christian high school, a lot of the kids she's 32, are still not married. And
no doubt.
So every generation's getting worse and worse, farther and farther away. Well, that debt, I know so many young women who have babies and they love their babies deeply, but they can't stay home with them because of the debt they acquired in college.
Well, that's assuming they even have a father around. Like a lot of girls I went to high school with, a lot of them, I mean, I went to a big school too, about 2,000 students, Fort Myers High School down in Florida.
Hmm.
And this is a big school, but even the best girls you thought would do well in life, they had good father or good parents. I knew them a little bit sometimes, right? However successful they were in school, smart, intelligent, straight A's, whatever. A lot of them are overweight now and single mothers or divorced. I mean, the number of single mothers in my generation, it's insane. And
my kids have a lot of friends who are already divorced and they're in their 30s.
Yeah, I know.
And know what it is? I think it's because there's not enough older women like me.
Yeah.
God commands older women to teach the younger women to love their husbands, to love their children, to be keepers at home. I was at a huge church mentoring. I was in a mentoring program. And whenever there was a really difficult marriage situation, they'd always call me because I was the only one that all the other older women were mentoring them in God's word, but not in biblical womanhood. Okay. I don't really hardly know personally I know one woman who's a godly woman, speaks and mentors women, but her focus isn't biblical womanhood. Even in the churches, like I've taught, one big church near me told me I couldn't teach wives to submit to their husbands, that their husbands were the leader of the family. In the other church, I couldn't teach women they should be keepers at home because it will offend the women, the career women.
Yeah, what were the reasons they gave you when they said they forbid this? What did they say exactly?
They said submission causes abuse. And the woman would go, I know truckloads of women who were abused because of submission. And no, it's not submission that causes abuse. Does your boss abuse you because you submit to them? Do parents automatically abuse their children because they submit to them? No, it's wicked, evil, abusive husbands that abuse their wives. Submission actually is God's formula to win your husband by being godly, submissive, pleasing him, caring for him.
Men should be leaders who are dominant, not domineering and abusive, which is completely different, but dominant, like a healthy masculine dominance.
Yeah. I mean, it drives me crazy sometimes because I would love to. I have a strong personality, and I would love to be dominating sometimes. So it kind of drives you crazy. But that's God's created order, and it's good. And
I think it's fine for women. To me, you seem very feminine, but also assertive, which is a good balance to strike. And I think it's a good, it's a healthy way to live. You could still be very feminine. That's what our channel, I think, likes about you. It's so abnormal in America to see a feminine woman of any age compared to past generations or even places like Poland. I went to Poland in 2019, and there were feminine women everywhere.
Really?
It was shocking. It was
shocking. Why do you think?
It's an extremely Catholic country. It's like 86% Catholic. And they also had a long history of communism. They hate communism. And they see feminism, obviously, as an extension of communism. And they really, really, really hate communism. The Soviets controlled them till the collapse in the early 90s. So basically, they hate feminism. They saw my hat there when I wore it, Make Women Great Again. And they would ask me, are you a feminist? Like, accuse me. And I'm like, no, not even a little bit. Like, oh, okay.
The opposite.
Yeah, they really have a distaste for, I mean, the country has just been through like unbelievable hell. The Nazis occupied them, destroyed their country, and committed genocide basically against them. And then the Soviets took over for over 50 years. And they're so, rightfully so, combative with anything that's communist or Marxist or feminist that it keeps the gender relations healthy. Like women, they act like women, and they expect men to act like men. So the men act like men, and the women act like women. And it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. It's like 1950s America with iPhones. Like it's amazing. It was so inspiring. It gave me hope because in America, there's like no feminine women. They might be physically beautiful, but that's it. So
when you take away femininity, femininity and turn women into men.
Yeah.
It feminizes men, and it's easy for countries to take over.
That's right. Yeah, evil people, dictators, evil ideologies, like these Marxists and Antifa, all this crap.
Well, there's a verse in the Bible in Isaiah talking about when children are their oppressors and women rule over them, they cause them to go the wrong way. They cause them to err, and they lead them down the wrong path. And that's why this is so controversial. But I'm controversial in every single thing I teach. But I'm against women voting. Of course, I vote because I support conservative, the conservative women need to vote now since women were given the right to vote.
Sure.
But when the vote took place, women didn't even want to vote. They wanted to just focus on their home and homemaking and raising their children. They didn't want to deal with politics and everything.
Yeah.
But women overwhelmingly, do you know that not one Republican president, not one Democrat president would be elected if women didn't vote? Because they overwhelmingly vote Democrat.
Yeah.
They want the right to murder their baby. They want the government to take care. They don't need men, but they want the government to be able to take care of them.
And the government is funded by taxpayers who are mostly men.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
And but they want to be able to live without a man and have the government take over them. Because men have long-term vision. They can see, and women have just their needs and their wants. They base their lives upon their emotions and their feelings. And men don't. They're more into logic and reason. And that's why God just created, God gave us our personalities to be home with our children, to raise our children. Now I'm with my grandbabies all the time, cuddling and fighting and playing with them.
Yep.
But men to go out and slay the dragons, like Dr. Laura always said.
Yep. I like the dragon I want to slay is feminism. I really want to destroy it and abolish it. And I think I can do that within 30 years. That's the plan anyway.
Well, I'm helping you.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we're on the same page.
Yeah.
I think that, it's 2021. You're going to live hopefully another 30, 40 years and beyond. I'm 30, so hopefully I'll live to 100 or something with 7 years. But regardless of the time, I don't think this century has another 80 years left in it. And in my view, either feminism is going to die or America will die. And I love America, so I want feminism to end. Like, it has to end. And I think if it doesn't, it will kill America by killing masculinity, by killing femininity, and therefore killing the family. That to me is
that's
beyond,
their goal.
That's their goal, yeah. And it's
you read the radical feminists, and their goals from the very beginning, and that's their goal, is to destroy the family and men.
Yep. And I think the way they do that's actually by destroying. They attack the family directly, obviously, in some ways, but I think really they're trying to undermine the pillars of the family, which is masculinity and femininity, man and woman coming together and literally creating a family, the nuclear family. Right. Never mind extended family and all that. So I use my companies and our events to basically combat that and fight against that, help men directly and now women too, with Make Women Great Again, which is I just love that so much. Like, I never thought I'd be in love with something like a hat so much and an idea, but it's just so much. It's endlessly funny because it just enrages all of them so easily and so fast,
And it's funny because a lot of women did not vote for President Trump.
Yeah.
And I think it's because he was masculine, very masculine. He wasn't a pushover at all. He didn't, Yeah. And my neighbor, I remember telling me that she was so thankful when she doesn't have to listen to him anymore. She said, everything's going to be good now. And I said, no, it's not. It's going to be horrible now. Now we've got women running the country.
Yeah. I think by far Donald Trump was the most masculine president we've had, at least since Reagan.
He's the best in my lifetime. I was alive during Reagan's in the 80s.
Yeah.
But he didn't have to fight the left and the wickedness like President Trump did.
That's right.
On a daily basis, he has to fight it. And our country wasn't as wicked in the 80s as it is now. Yeah. So we needed a fighter. We needed someone who wasn't a politician and beholden to anybody.
That's right.
And he's so positive. It's so sad what's going on in our country.
I know. And I like that he's in Florida, though. At least he's in my home state now, where he belongs.
And you have the best governor ever.
I know. I love Ron DeSantis too. I almost met him. I kind of almost met him a couple weeks ago in Orlando. He always is traveling around, but I love him too. He's amazing. I knew he would do good when I voted for him. I didn't know he would do anywhere near this good though.
Yeah.
Far surpassed my expectations, and all of us in Florida just love it. Yeah, he's very Florida. He's a Florida man like me. I grew up here. I was born here. I was raised here. I'm like third generation, and he's very much the savage, intense Florida man that we need. So,
and it's like voting for Trump. We didn't know what kind of a president he would be. I didn't even know if he was a conservative at all. We voted for him because, of course, we didn't want Hillary.
Yeah.
Man, he exceeded all of our expectations.
Yeah. I was very happy with him too. Yeah, at least at minimum, just because he, I think, opened the door to so much possibility in the future. Now he makes Ron DeSantis look like a moderate by comparison, which Ron DeSantis is not. He's very based and very savage and aggressive for pursuing what he believes is right. But even like I like Rand Paul a lot too, the son of Ron Paul, the senator from Kentucky.
Oh yeah, he's great.
Yeah. But they all look like completely like, even keeled by comparison to Trump, who's like, ah. I like Trump. I mean, I personally love Trump the way he's
too.
Yeah, that's the best thing about him. Yeah.
I like that kind. I just like bold, blunt.
You know what? Yeah. It's very masculine. You know what's interesting too is he's I think the only president in recent history. Now Piers Morgan grilled him in 2018 on an interview. He was trying to basically tell Trump, "You're a feminist," and Trump's like, "No, I'm not a feminist." And so Piers Morgan's like, "Well, so you're saying you're not a feminist at all?" And Trump's like, "No, I'm not a feminist." Now I think he really is an anti-feminist like us, but even he can't push that far with that kind of stuff. But saying he was a sitting U.S. president who said, "I'm not a feminist," and I was like, "Yes, yes," because that makes it in the future.
Yeah, and I loved his wife. She was so feminine.
Yeah.
We had no clue what her views were because she wasn't like Laura Bush and his dad's wife. What was her name? Barbara. They were both pro-choice. You knew that they bucked their husbands in some areas. And with her, she was like completely supportive. Yeah. Didn't want to take the spotlight like the other wives. Yeah. Just a feminine, amazing role model to women.
Yeah. And beautiful too. Yeah.
Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Yeah.
I think she was easily the best. You know what's interesting is you don't really see, and so I'm glad you brought that up. You don't really see any feminine popular role models for women today. You see nothing but the opposite. Cardi B and all this trash, right? But you had this amazing first lady who was, I think, completely underappreciated because she was so feminine and kicked ass at her job on top of that, did everything she needed to do, including support her husband through the most difficult fight, political fight in recent American history by far.
She dressed feminine. Just everything about her was feminine, and she was home to raise her son. She wasn't out doing this and that. Who's like what 6'7" now? Can you believe that?
Yeah. I'm 32 and I'm a little bit crude. She's kind of hot. I mean, to have a hot first lady is like what? Like, how is that even possible? But also feminine and submissive and all these things. Yeah. Role model.
She's very rare.
Yep. I want to take a few steps back though. So we were talking earlier about how women maybe were different when you were younger, not too much like you're saying, because of second wave feminism, maybe birth control, abortion. A lot of the fundamentals were in place by the time you were young. But what about American men in the 70s and 80s? How are they different compared to what you see now? Were they more masculine maybe? Today we have soy boys, we have SJWs.
We didn't have any of that. Yeah. Like in my high school and college, no, they were all masculine. The men were masculine.
They're ratty.
I didn't know if anyone was gay in my big high school. I didn't know because they all acted masculine. And in my college, they all were very masculine. So I've heard that stepping on a high school campus these days is, a pastor's wife told me that, is the most oppressive place she's ever been. It's the most popular people are the gays and the transgenders. The most popular people in my high school were the football players, the basketball players, the masculine guys. So it's just it's so sad, so different. Men were masculine, but I think when women leave their roles, I think that's when they left their homes, wanted to become like men, be sexually promiscuous, didn't want to be homemakers. And I think that was the starting point of the destruction of America, because that pulls down men. Women can manipulate men. My husband talks to men all the time. He mentors men every day who are in difficult marriages. I've mentored women for years, and I've had much more success than him because women have so much more influence in marriage and making it good and winning husbands. Men are a lot more simple, most of them, more easy to please, more easy to understand. Men are always constantly trying to chase their wives' emotions and feelings, and that's just a vicious cycle that can never be until they're taught to stop it.
Yeah, I went through my own difficult marriage years ago, as I told you through email. It's on YouTube as well. That was just a disaster in like 1,000 different ways. Like it's, but there were some elements of this too. I've always been kind of like, not a split personality. I've always been very intense and very like alpha masculine in some ways, but in other ways I was not. A lot of feminist ideas I had growing up and stuff that I didn't realize were feminists. That's the thing. I think a lot of even young girls today, you see some more young women that are anti-feminist. And to some extent they are, but it's really just like the hyper radical stuff you see now that's obviously ridiculous, but they still believe a lot of second wave feminism and they don't even realize that it's feminism. I'm 21. I want to have a career and do all this and that in my 20s. It's like, you can technically do that. It's a free country, but that's a really bad idea. Like your eggs are your peak fertility is at 22 years old. Motherhood is way more important. Your babies are going to be forever. Marriage is more important. You can build a career at any time in your life as a woman. When you're 40, 50, 60, like, when you're young, you need to get wifed up, get knocked up. And it's a very crude way to say it, but it really triggers all the people, all the nasty feminists and stuff. Can you talk to me a little bit about that? How women today are, I mean, it's really amazing. They're oblivious that they live in a feminist, they're like fish in water. They swim in feminism all day long, and they just have no idea that it's completely new in human history as for our whole civilization for women to like be 18, 19, 20 years old and completely ignore motherhood and like building a family. It's just not even like, you've talked about this. Like, they don't even care to have babies. It's not even a thought to them now. I mean, do you see that as propaganda?
There's a lot of older women now who've written articles regretting their decisions, and they feel like they've been lied to. Because even sadly, the churches aren't combating the lies of feminism. Mm-hmm. We go to a church now that's a very solid biblical church, and the passages about women submitting is coming up soon. And we talked to our pastor about it, and he's right on, he's not going to water it down. He's going to teach it the way it is.
Good.
But most churches, they cater to the women for some reason. They'll speak hard against the men, love your wives as Christ loved the church, but they won't speak to the women. So all women have heard from the time they were young is feminism. That's all they've ever heard. What do you want to be when you grow up? And the thing is, you even said getting a career in your 30s and 40s. I'm in 62, and I haven't had a career since my son, 36 years. And careers is just a really fancy name for jobs.
Yeah.
God created men to be the providers of the families. And feminism convinced women that their worth and their value is in having a job away from their home. Home was bondage. Raising children was bondage. Having sex with your husband was bondage and rape. All these, they twisted everything that God says is good to make it seem ugly. And these women have bought the lies, and they're finding out too late. Although a lot of women, who have read my stuff, I receive messages all the time. I was one of your trolls. I kept following you and unfollowing you. And now I'm living out what you teach, and I'm happier than can be. And if people wonder, why do I have so many trolls? Why do they keep coming back? Why do they have? And I just say, you know what? What they intend for evil, God uses for good. So just let them. Truth never comes back void. They need to hear this stuff. They've never heard it their whole lives.
Well, I think the reason that they keep following you and unfollowing you is they know that you're right. They can feel it in their bones that they want to be a mother. Like, I hear girls sometimes say this stuff, that they don't want to have babies and this and that. And while they could be authentic about it, I think usually they're just confused and they've been brainwashed, basically. They do. The reason they're even saying it out loud, why would they even say that? I don't want babies. Because they're thinking about it, because that's what they want. Whether it's nature or God or whatever, it's built into them to be mothers and to be submissive. It's what makes them happy. In the meantime, they don't do that, and they're miserable and depressed, and they're drinking out, like they're alcoholics and like drug addicts. Like, it's amazing how far the American woman has fallen. Men are not far behind. I think men have been emasculated, like all that.
Oh, yeah.
But I do think women are further along. Do you agree with that? That they're more damaged?
Oh yeah. And I think that you said that women have a natural inclination to want to be married and have children. I'm not sure that's true anymore, because they've been so hardened. They've heard deceit and lies their entire lives. Their lives are all about them and what they can get in life. It's all about a paycheck. Their worth is in a paycheck. That's what our culture tells them. They need to make money so they can have stuff, they can travel. Having babies is sacrificial. It's, you're sick. Most of us are sick when we're pregnant. Then we have to go through labor, which is not fun at all. And then we have to go through sleepless nights and nursing and all that comes with that. Then we have to go through the stage of disciplining them and training them, But once you get past 3 or 4 or 5, once they're trained, they obey you. They're so much fun. There's everything. Someone was trying to convince me on Instagram how hard being homework making and having a child is. I said, being hard isn't bad. Marriage is hard. Being I've been married over 40 years now. Being married to the same man for over 40 years isn't easy, but I can tell you it's a lot easier this last 20 years since I've
Yeah.
learned to not argue and fight and be contentious and quarreling. We have a wonderful time together by far the majority of time.
Yeah.
And if women go into marriage knowing that their marriage shouldn't be hard.
He's the love of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've had babies together. We've watched them
Yep.
grow up. We've invested our lives into these children, and now we're investing our lives into our grandchildren. And my children and my grandchildren all love coming to our home because we're united. There's peace here. It's a comforting, secure place to be. And women don't understand the sacrifices that you make bearing children, being sick, whatever, childbirth, everything, are so worth it. And it's only
Bingo.
Your fertility window is not that long.
It's short.
So I always say you'll never bet how many children you have, whereas men can have them a lot longer. Women's fertility, by the time they're, in their late 30s, a lot of women can't get pregnant then.
It's dangerous too. The children can have birth defects and stuff at that age. It's called advanced maternity age past 35. It's a little bit.
I don't quite agree with that. I think because my grandmother had her 7th at 47, and he was her biggest, strongest baby.
Wow, 47.
Yeah, 47 at home. Her 7th at home. And he grew up to be 6'3", and
Well, I'm just citing conventional medicine.
Right.
I'm not saying I even agree with that.
It's harder to get pregnant when you get older. Your eggs are older. So there is more potential for problems. But I still encourage women, as long as God's letting you have babies, have them. You'll never regret it. Because once you hit 40, 35, 40, you won't be able to have more children. You'll just feel enjoy.
Wasn't this what God commands? Be fruitful, multiply, right?
Yeah. And we didn't have terrible twos. We didn't have rebellious teenagers. Because we raised them right. We were very intentional about how we raised them. We made sure they obeyed us from the time they were little. We made sure we loved them deeply. So they respected us even in high school. My boys played varsity basketball and baseball, and we didn't but they still had to be in, I think it was 10. And they never argued or fought us on it because they knew it was for our good, for their good, and for their protection.
Well, you love them, so I think that's why they trusted you.
Yeah, that's why I obey God, because I know He loves me, and all of His commands are for my good. My kids knew we loved them.
So there's something I want to disagree with you on a little bit in terminology anyway. My philosophy that I follow, my religion is called objectivism, created by Ayn Rand. And she argues a lot about sacrificial things. So when you say that having children is sacrificial, I'm following your logic. It makes sense. But to me, it's not a sacrifice. It's a price you pay for something greater. Like you said, it's all worth it in the end. I agree with you 1,000%. It's I think it's crazy not to have children. Like it's a really weird thing that people are brainwashed this way. Right. You're a living, breathing human being. Like your parents obviously took the time to make you and create you, hopefully raise you as well. That's the gift of life. And to not pay this forward is like beyond stupid. Only people that are brainwashed can really think this way, in my view, loosely speaking. But anyway, it's all worth it. Like I'm sure it's childbirth and, raising kids and all that. I have no doubt. I came from a big family. I get it. That could be very intense. You could die giving childbirth. Like this is serious, right? But it's all worth it in the end. You love your children, then they have grandchildren. It just keeps going and going and going. So to me, it's like you pay a price, but the outcome is substantially greater than that. It's happiness. I mean, you seem like a happy feminine woman who's not a miserable old cat lady. And a lot of your peers are divorced old cat ladies drinking themselves to death with wine and anxiety medications and all kinds of crap. They have a barren womb, no kids, no husband, no life partner, no grandchildren, no nothing. They just have a career working for someone that doesn't even care about them. It's insane. It's totally insane.
Right. So, and they'll submit to their boss, but heaven forbid they submit to their husband. But what you're saying is, I agree. It's long-term, short-term pain for long-term gain. That's what children in a long-term marriage is. It's priceless. It's absolutely the best thing in life. And hard isn't bad. I think I might have already said that, but I say that a lot. It doesn't mean that it's bad. It's good. Yeah. God's ways are perfect. There's this saying,
I think the saying is like, everything good in life is hard. It takes hard work or hard thinking or hard decision making to make something great. Whether it's building a business or building a family or building a relationship, it takes tough decisions. I've been an entrepreneur for 15 years, and it's a very complex career that I built for myself. that's taken a lot of hard work and determination and perseverance for 15 years. I mean, it's a decade and a half. It's my entire adult life, but I love it. And that's why I can keep doing it, because I'm so dedicated to it and so intense with it. And it's hard. And that's, I think as a man anyway, at least, it's why I love it. It's a challenge for me to keep becoming better and better and better, not only as an entrepreneur, quote unquote, but as a man. And as mature into manhood beyond adolescence and stuff. When I started my business when I was 17. I was right out of high school, actually. So it was about picking up women.
Did your parents teach you a strong work ethic?
I would say my dad demonstrated it. Yeah, he was an entrepreneur as well, and he worked his butt off, like constant, like nonstop. Probably too much, I would think, and that was not good. But at least I had that example, and that was, I would say, a masculine example, even if imperfect. And so through that, my mom was a stay-at-home mom too, so I had that experience as well.
That's great. You were blessed.
Yeah, and
the older you get, the more you see that. My daughter went away. She was a professional ballerina for a while, and with a Christian ballet company. But everyone went around and gave their testimonies, and I remember her calling me up and saying, "I never knew how blessed I was to be in a family with a mom and a dad, and a mom who, because all the brokenness from all the girls' stories was just tragic to hear, So, yeah, it sounds like you were very blessed in the home life that you had.
Just in some ways, yes. In some ways, no. I mean, it was not. It was far from perfect home. But they gave me, I have 3 siblings, so I have 2 sisters and a brother. My parents are still married, and my dad was the provider. My mom is a stay-at-home mom. So I'm thankful for that, because I understand how important that is, that example they set in that specific sense.
Right.
And I always knew from that, growing up in a big family, I liked it. That's what I was used to. But I also knew, even with the negative elements that happened, without getting too deep into it, that the structure was good. The structure was sound. A mother, a father, a lot of children, stuff like that. That was fundamentally positive. And even in the worst times, I knew that this was a good thing to do, and to go out into the world on my own someday and do. That's my plan, of course, to have as many kids as I can. I told Michael Foster I'm going to beat him. He has 7, or technically at 8. One died, unfortunately.
Is his wife still young?
I think she's his age, like 41, 42.
Okay. She might be like my grandma. I think my grandma had one at 43 and 47, for 6 and 7.
But Michael Foster told me recently that they're done having kids. I don't know why, to be honest, but they have a lot. I mean, God bless, 7 kids.
7's great.
Yeah, but I told him I'm gonna beat him, so I'm gonna have more. We have to be competitive.
You have to marry a young woman who still has a lot of eggs.
Oh yeah, for sure. Easy 20, 21, 22, 100%. Yeah. That's what I'm gonna. As the older I get, the more experience I've gained in life, just in general, right? Everyone does, but especially as a man.
And I think marrying young, you're not so set in your ways. And to go back to what you were talking about, working hard like you do and sacrificing everything. We live in a very entitled generation.
Yep.
In my grandpa's day and age, men did not want handouts at all. They wanted, even if they were starving, it was hard for them to take handouts. Now, everyone's like, in the pandemic, we know like doctors who make a ton of money who got $350,000 from the government.
Yeah.
Just handouts. And instead of saying, no, I don't need it, everyone just takes out handouts and has no problem with it. And a lot of kids being raised today are not being taught to work hard at all. They sit around on their phones all day. The whole iPhone thing is tragic to me, to see these teenagers walking in groups all stuck on their iPhones instead of talking to each other. Whereas my son,
go ahead.
Well, we raised our kids to be in activities that kept them very busy. I remember one pastor saying, you want to keep your sons sexually pure and to have good lives, just fill their trucks up with a ton of activities. So my sons were always playing sports and busy with school. They didn't have time to just sit around and play video games all day long and waste their lives away. Like so many. I mean, some of my 36-year-old son's friends are still living at home.
Wow.
Hardly doing anything.
Yeah, I wanted to get out on my own as soon as I left at 17 and never turned back. And I started my business like literally a month and a half later. And I've been, independent ever since, traveled the world, 26 countries, building the business, bringing my convention to Australia, Poland, Sweden, England, Texas, around Florida too. And I love it. But I grew up in Florida, so it's a very outdoors kind of state. It's my favorite place in the world, and I've traveled.
Where'd you grow up in Florida, did you say?
Southwest Florida, near the Everglades, Fort
Because
Myers.
my husband was in Miami for junior high and high school years.
Yeah, yeah. My grandparents are from Miami. My dad was born there.
It's
But he
hot
moved.
there in the summer.
Yeah, the whole state's pretty hot. But I grew up on the Southwest coast, so it's like Miami, but directly across the state on the west side.
Right, Miami is very hot.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's very small. Yeah,
Whereas today in San Diego, I think it's like
yeah.
70 degrees and gorgeous.
But like your sons, though, I grew up. I always had a boat growing up, like an actual motorboat. So even from as young as 10 years old, and this is normal. This is legal in Florida too. You can get like a boater's driver's license for a kid. You can just drive around in your boat, fishing and doing tubing, all kinds of stuff. And
that's good for kids. That's so good for kids to be outside and playing and jumping and running. I don't even think boys should be in school until they're 8 years old. I don't even think they should be ever sit in a chair all day long, because they're not created to sit in chairs all day long. In fact, my littlest one, he was falling asleep at dinner time and so I went to school every single day and picked him up in kindergarten. And then I decided to homeschool my boys in junior high because I saw it was going in the junior high. I didn't want that for my sons to be exposed. Yeah. They loved it. And know what I did with my boys in junior high? I got them really good literature, missionary autobiographies, just good historical fiction they love. So they would read 2 hours a day, and then they would do Saxon math. It's a really hard math. And that was it. So for 3 hours a day, they homeschooled, reading a ton and math. And if you teach your children to read really good and be really good at math, everything is easy for them. So then I homeschooled them about 5-6 years or so. They loved it. They would finish their work. Their cousin would come over. They'd go surfing. They'd play ball together. They were outside. They'd come out and get food whenever they wanted it. It's perfect for them. And then we sent them to the local Christian high school that is very difficult academically. And I was very nervous because I didn't test them. I was just so laid back in my homeschooling. I was sick too. So they did great. It was simple for them. Because if they're really good, it's funny because most kids in the schools are not learning to be good readers. They're you remember this books you read in high school and junior high? They were so boring. I gave them books that they love to read. So all 4 of my kids love to read. So if they learn to be really good readers, good at math, sky's the limit for them.
Yeah. I loved, as you could see in my bookshelf, I have I have even more books around my house. I've always loved
You read them?
Oh yeah. I haven't read all of them, but I've read probably 60 or 70% of them. And I'm always rereading books too, like over and over again, if I find it useful the first time. Mm-hmm. I always know that I don't get everything out of it. Even beyond that, I actually want to understand not only the content of a book, I try to get inside the head of the author. With your books, I want to understand not only what you've written, I want to try to understand where that information came from, where those ideas came from, how did you create them, and what kind of attitude and perseverance in your life did it take to get to the point where you wrote this book. So to me, it's about the author as well as the content, because that to me is how you get to the source of the information, the source of the knowledge. Where did it come from and why? What motivated them? What drove them? And then that also helps me to create new ideas off the ideas that the author presents. I want to kind of extrapolate out and make new ideas. Like make women great again, or make women virgins again.
Well, unfortunately, I had to go through a lot of hard knocks to learn. That's why I'm teaching young women so they don't have to. Yeah. And I was very difficult marriage, first 20 years, and we always were fighting. And our kids were about ready to leave, and my husband told me he'd never leave me, but we were just gonna be roommates. Yeah. Very depressing. And then
I've heard of some Christians will do this, right? They refuse to get married or divorced because it's a sin, but the relationship's basically dead, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And women initiate up to 80% of the divorces today. Mm-hmm. It's so tragic. And that's why so many men don't want to get married, because the women could decide they just don't love their husbands anymore. Then they will take half of what their husband owns, and he has to pay them, and it's just such a raw deal for them. And with the no fault divorce, it was just that's right. It's just really sad.
I think the fall of the American family could maybe be pinned. There's a lot of things to it: abortion, birth control, feminist culture in general. But really, it's no fault divorce that unfortunately Reagan, who regretted it, rightfully so, he started. I think it's done more harm to legally too. There's a lot of reasons why. It gives women an incredible power to bring to like get a court involved and just destroy somebody, invade their privacy, their financial documents, take over their entire future. Even in Florida, I think California too. In Florida, we have lifetime alimony for women. These strong, independent women can get money forever for the next 50, 60, 70 years if they got married young, right? From a man if they don't get married again, which cuts it off. That's just insane.
Even if it's their fault. I mean, I can understand that if the husband goes off and has an affair and leaves her destitute. I can understand when he would have to do that then if she's helped build up his career and supported him. But when she decides to leave him, yeah, it's just in the chat room, a woman was asking, her parents are older. She's in her 30s, probably, maybe late 20s, but they want to get divorced. Her mom wants to leave him. She's not happy. And she was asking the other women, what's it like to have divorced parents as adults? And it was awful, all the stories about they'll never be in the same room. The weddings are very uncomfortable. You know, birthday parties, Christmases, holidays. It's just, whereas like at our house, we're all together. There's not a crossword. We'll go be on, we'll go somewhere on vacation all together. Not a crossword. We all enjoy.
Well, Lori, that's because you have internalized misogyny and internalized patriarchy. You're just brainwashed. You're so happy that you're brainwashed. Like,
I know. Brainwashed by Jesus Christ, and that's great.
We actually had a question from a commenter. Let me see if I can find it. There's people watching this live. Here we go. So Hadrian's Wall said, how do you respond to the critics who say she has internalized misogyny? Can you address this? Because obviously a lot of the feminists accuse you of this.
Internalized misogyny. See, I didn't even study that. What does that mean? I hate men?
No, it means you hate women. They think you hate women.
Oh yeah. Okay. Okay.
That would be Miss Andrews, the hatred of men.
And that's so funny because I would put up with what I put up with if I didn't love women. I'm teaching them what's for their best, what's good for them, what they will be thankful for. I know a lot of people see a lot of hateful comments and things directed at me, but every single day I receive comments, emails, private messages thanking me for their marriage is good. They're having babies. They're full-time. I'm coming home in a week. I can't wait because of you. I always felt another woman. I felt so guilty at home. Now I know that it's right where I'm supposed to be, and I love it. Mm-hmm. I love women. Feminists hate women. Feminism hates women. They wanted women not to be in the home. They wanted them to be in the career, to take over men, to not have.
All right, I just want to yell right now. A woman, sister, a woman.
Yeah.
Like doing Congress. Yeah.
So I love women. God loves women. Feminism hates women. Everything that they've been taught is contrary to womanhood and how they've been built completely, and it's destructive and destroying women. We can see it all around us. The destruction of family, the destruction of children, and it's the children who are being. When I teach on Keepers at Home, I get so brutalized by the comments. It's like, what? Oh, you just hate women. It's like, what about the children? What about what's best for the children? Why can't be home? That's just too. What about the children? The children need and want you home full time. We live in Sodom and Gomorrah right now, and these children. Exactly? We live in Sodom and Gomorrah right now.
That's out of the Bible, right? I don't know what it is.
That's the Bible, and those cities were destroyed due to homosexuality.
Oh, okay.
Fornication. All the guys, some angels came in to get Lot, the one righteous man in the whole city, and Lot pulled him into the house because all the men in the cities wanted to rape them. It's a really ugly story. So God burned down those cities with fire and brimstone. Completely demolish them. Yeah, so we live in Sodom and Gomorrah right now, and mothers need to be home to protect their children. So I teach what's best for women and for children and for men and for nations, because you have a strong family, you can have a strong nation.
That's right. The Mormons have a statue in Utah, I think, and it says a secure family is the nation's strength, I think is the exact quote. Mm-hmm. And they're 100%. It's a huge statue, and they're 100% right. Without it, you're doomed.
Yeah.
That's why I think America, if feminism is not abolished from culture, from politics, all of it, A to Z, right? The military, schools, workplace, home, every bit of it, America will die because they're going to kill the family. Without a family, you don't have a country. it's just going to fall apart into a million pieces. Rome will fall, basically.
Yeah.
I don't
Oh
want
yeah.
to see that.
And even Amy Coney Barrett, everyone asked me, how do you think, are you excited, a pro-life woman and on the Supreme Court? No, I don't think a man will ever get to be on the Supreme Court again, because the way they treat the men who are auditioning for the Supreme Court. And she has 7 little kids. Everyone was bragging, oh, the first Supreme Court justice who has children at home. It's like, what about the children?
I know.
They're not going to get to see their, and I love that Laura Trump, when she came out, she was going to announce, we all thought that she was going to run for the Senate. And she said that she gives 100% whatever she does. And right now she's raising her 2 little babies.
Yep.
I just started clapping. My husband and son-in-law were in the room. I started clapping, and I tweeted it out. And then someone retweeted it, one of the congressmen, and she tweeted it. And I was going, good for you, Laura. Yay.
Nice.
She's right where she's supposed to be. She cares about her kids more. Yeah. Women don't understand that we have more influence in the home and raising our children to be good people, to be good citizens, to be hard workers than any woman in the political arena.
Yep. That comes to mind because you were talking earlier about women and careers, and a career is just a fancy name for a job, and then you're kind of like submissive or a slave almost to a boss, right?
Right.
But I think what the feminists have successfully done, unfortunately, in the process of this, is they've delegitimized completely motherhood and wifehood as like a job. It's more than a job, obviously. It's much deeper than that, but it's important work that takes a lot of time and effort and takes skill. Like you try to teach these women sewing, cooking, cleaning, taking care of your husband, keeping a good home. These things are really important, and they just throw all that out the window. And it's disturbing and disgusting, but it's so sad too. This is an important job that they don't even treat. They've just completely made it. I don't know. They just throw it in the dirt, And it's like the most important thing you could possibly do for us.
I teach women it's a ministry. You're ministering to your children and to your husband and to anyone who comes into your home. It's a beautiful thing. It's exactly where God wants them to be. And it makes strong families, strong nations. And there's nothing, even when because they'll say, well, it gets monotonous. Well, even I was a school teacher and it was so monotonous. It was so hard, But when you're cleaning your toilets, thank the Lord that you have a toilet. You don't have to go to the outhouse. When you're washing dishes, praise the Lord that you have a family to feed and food to eat. And everything, it's all about attitude. If women need to be taught to love being keepers at home, to being homemakers. There's not better stuff out there, the whatever out there, because we're all serving someone. You're either going to serve your boss, or you're going to serve your family. I would much prefer serving my family. And what I'm serving, my husband and my children, they're eternal beings. Everything that you get in the workforce, a paycheck, it's all, and you're replaceable. Anybody, a nurse, teacher, anybody, as soon as you quit, you're replaced.
Well, the money, like you're saying, the money is temporary. It's all dust.
It's all, and it could be taken. Our nation, our financial situation right now is horrible. It could crash in a moment.
Yep.
But if you have your family, you still have your family. You can go buy land and have a farm, But
a lot of my friends are doing that. Michael Foster is one of them. Elliot Hulse is another. These are men with large families, 4 children, 7 children. Elliot Hulse just moved near me in Florida. He was on the West Coast near Tampa. Now he's in Orlando near me in Central Florida. He bought a huge 42-acre ranch basically for him and his family. And now that's part of his dream he's had for a while, right? This is important to him for traditional reasons, I guess you call them. He's also worried though about economic collapse, which we saw in, riots and all kinds of stuff. And he's right. Eventually it all falls apart. And what are you going to do then? You better have a ranch. He has a lake with like bass in it. He has farm animals now.
Fun for the kids.
Yeah, totally.
My husband's looking for land. He's looking in Tennessee, or we have one of my nieces moved to Florida, and her husband, and he has got a huge lot in Florida, and so my husband will probably help invest in that. Or his wife wants to be in Tennessee. I'd rather be in Tennessee too, just because it's prettier and not as hot. But but whatever. But and so then we have all of my sons and sons-in-laws and my grandkids, and we have plenty of help, And then my mom, when she died, she invested in her children. She was always there for her grandchildren. She loved her grandchildren. When she was on her deathbed, everyone was around her bed, loving her, singing hymns, waiting on her hand and foot. And all these women who are single, working, they're not investing their lives into their children.
Yep.
What's there? In my old age, I have my grandkids a lot. In fact, I'm pretty exhausted watching my grandkids. But there's
Nice.
nothing else I would rather do. And
Of
they love
course.
to cuddle with me. They love to come to my house,
Yep.
and stay over. And it's I don't want a career. Even in my old age, I love being able to mentor women the way I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mentor women all day long when I have
Well,
the chance.
that is your work. I mean, you're not only a mother and a grandmother, and you're kicking ass at it, to put it crudely. You're also doing important work on the internet that's reaching millions of people, women and men.
Well, it's
The men
funny
on
because when I started
yeah,
10 years ago, and my husband said, just try to get 100 likes on Facebook. And I laughed at him. I said, who's
right.
going to read what I write? I'm just like a nobody. And God says he uses the weak things of the world to shame the white. And I'm the strong, and I'm very weak. I have a brain tumor. I have a lot of health issues.
Dang.
But so I just started writing what was on my heart, what I thought, and then I had 3 things go viral.
Yeah.
And people, the first time I got attacked by trolls, ran up to Ken and said, all these people are horrible comments. And now it's
Well,
part
let's
of
actually.
life.
I can pull up an article real quick. Actually, this is the media going after you. The same things they did to me with my "Make Women Great Again."
Uh-huh.
So, Christian blogger Lori Alexander, 60, sparks outrage, saying women are more likely to be beaten and abused by their husbands if they're quarrelsome instead of submissive. This is all fake news,
When
of
was
course.
that? When was that published?
It's not probably 2019 October.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't see everything that's published about me.
Yeah.
Daily Mail has published a lot of things about me.
Yeah, same. They've done half a dozen on me. It's all the same stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think they're just standard news.
Well, no, it's funny. You probably feel the same way. I take from my Christian, but what they intend for evil, God uses for good. Because I see different Facebook sites, blogs, YouTube's dedicated to trying to destroy my ministry, And
Yeah.
I just think, what they're doing, what God, they think they're doing evil against me, God's going to use for good. So
It's the same with me. The more they attack you, the more they spread awareness. They're driving people to get woken up to better ideas. They're getting woke,
like
right?
my debt-free virgin post.
I love it. Yeah.
Well, that was sitting in my blog for a little while before I published it. And I was on vacation in Wisconsin. We can't even hardly get Wi-Fi out there. So I decided, I'll publish it. I published it. And it just took off like immediately. And Christian authors were writing posts about it. Women in the chat room were saying, look at this article that it hasn't even been an hour. And she wrote about it. And it has nothing to do with the article. Even Christians smeared me like this was a horrible thing to teach young women. And they say I shame women all the time.
Nice.
And which is so ridiculous. As believers in Jesus Christ, which these women claim to be, it's not shaming. They should feel conviction. Like, oh yeah, if you aren't a virgin, oh, I wish I was a virgin until marriage. That would have been wonderful. Oh, I wish I didn't get these tattoos. They're graying and looking ugly on me now. And I don't like them. I wish I don't have all this debt that's keeping me in bondage.
I hate tattoos on women. I've always hated tattoos on women. It's gross. It's a masculine thing.
I wrote that before I knew exactly the facts. I use common sense a lot in my writing. To me, it was like, of course, men are going to prefer a woman who hasn't slept around with a ton of men because men, when they marry a woman, they want to know that baby is going to be their baby.
Yeah.
And of course, men don't want a woman with a ton of debt. Who would want that? And of course, when tattoos are ugly, they get so gray and ugly with age. So, but then afterwards, I saw polls and everything, and I was right on all of it. It's like, where's common sense gone out the window?
Yep. We had a comment here, by the way. He donated $20. Thank you. He said, greetings, Mr. Johnson. Hope all is well. I recently discovered you through various other channels. I value and appreciate all that you do for men everywhere. Please inform Mrs. Alexander that she is the last of a dying breed. Laugh out loud. Yeah.
Well, know what? I'm not. I have a lot of little disciples learning from me on Instagram and women writing. Like I said, every day. I remember years ago, I say, I never want to get too big where I can't respond to everyone. But I can't respond to everyone anymore. I have hundreds of Facebook messages. I have hundreds of Instagram the best thing I try to keep on is my Gmail, my transfer wife, but I can't keep up with them. But they love what I'm teaching, and they're teaching it. So I'm hoping I'm not the last of a dying breed. I hope that I'm getting a lot of women's attention, and I know I am because they let me know every day. And I don't think so many would be and it's funny because I don't defend myself on my Facebook page as much as I used to. Sometimes I do when I have the time or the energy. But I have so many people who defend me now that I almost don't even need to defend myself now. It's wonderful. Because a lot of men, a lot of women are so mad that men are on my Facebook page. Yeah, this is for women, I think. I said, the trolls have scared all the women away. They don't scare the men away. The men can stand up to these trolls, women, these Nazis and everything, So I'm so thankful for the men. And I said, every single man that comes to my Facebook page or blog, they know that I'm teaching women. I'm not telling them how to live their lives at all, because I'm forbidden from doing that. And I don't want to do that. It doesn't help women for me to tell them how their husbands are supposed to treat them. They just have to focus on themselves and their behavior and how they're treating and loving their husbands and their children.
I agree with that 1,000%. And I've seen that when a woman acts more feminine, it inspires a man to be a leader and to be more masculine. And that's why the henpecking and the nagging, it's the opposite of that. It creates a downward spiral. But if you do the opposite, it's not a guaranteed outcome, I think, but it's much more likely that he's going to be more alpha and more masculine and more of a leader and more dominant, because that's natural. If you fall into that role, that's what a woman wants anyway. And
women ask me, how do I get my husband to lead? It's like, well, you don't have to. It's not your job. Well, for one thing, quit nagging him, manipulate him, start loving him and being kind and serving him and pleasing him any way you can. And then, like with the simple things I say, start off with, he wants to go out to eat. Well, where do you want to go out? He'll ask the woman because he's used to her probably controlling. Well, where do you want to go out? And go where he wants to go. Just all the simple things. That's where submission starts. Whereas you were kind of taught in the churches, you submit in the big things only. No, start in the little things. Start, what do you want for dinner for tonight? Where do you want to go on a walk today? Whatever. Just start submitting in all the little things, and your husband will become the leader.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a role that we naturally fall into. It's like you're talking about conflict and this, combat on the internet that they drive into your Facebook page, right? That doesn't surprise me. Men are much more prone to conflict if they're healthy and masculine. Like hopefully they're not hyper aggressive with it. But when I see conflict, if I need to fight, whether it's in my business or in life, like I'm going to go for it, right? Because I'm a man. That's what men do. Women are not. They should not be anyway prone to conflict like that. It's not feminine at all.
I know, it's ugly when they're fighting for their rights and fighting. So it's hard. Even with me commenting on my blog, I'll get to people telling me, you're so gentle and kind in the way you respond to your others. Others will say the opposite. So it's like, but I never call people names. I don't attack them. I try to go after their message and speak truth. That you have to learn how to be able to engage with people without being cruel, and that's
I'm a man. I have a little bit different philosophy. I like to be like Trump and be combative, but that's also to trigger them and to hopefully get them thinking. Like they might unfollow me, but then follow me again, like you, that kind of stuff. And I like to model what Trump does in terms of being like an attack dog and going after them. These like feminists, though, especially the nasty ones who are bullies, like these are women. Oh, you want to act like a man? I'm going to treat you like a man. I'm going to call you names, make fun of you in ways that are creative and clever and legitimately over their head, but they know it. So I just I just make all these kinds of things up to insult them.
Well, I think I'm very blunt and strong and right, but I think that's very unfeminine for a woman to do. What Trump and you do, No.
To
be in the fighting ring, to be in the boxing ring, that's just feminine for women to do.
Completely agree. Yeah. So there can be, but being bold though, like you're saying, or being blunt, that's fine.
Right.
I think it's assertive is what it is. It's not aggressive. Men take it. I think men have to both be assertive, which is being like firm, and aggressive, which is like pursuing and combat.
Well, we need aggressive men to take this country back.
Yeah, that's right.
The women aren't going to do it. We need the men to do that. And I know
that's what I realized with feminism too, is like women are never going to curtail this. It's obviously way overboard. Women are not, there's not enough good women to do something about it. Obviously, I need to do something about it. Men need to do something about it. Fathers need to do something about it. Grandfathers, like, let's go,
Well, that's why we like Trump. because he was a
Yeah.
fighter. He was fighting the left and the wicked. And there's a lot of men that are. I follow so many,
Yeah.
like Michael Foster and some great.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
With Twitter, I follow Eric Kahn and some great men who are strong and bold. And Joseph Spurgeon on Facebook, really strong and courageous and speak the truth. Rusty Thomas, I shared one of his blog posts the other day. So good about.
Well, that's something that Michael Foster and I spoke about on my podcast, The Red Man Group, about a month ago, maybe a little more. We talked about the example that Jesus set, like in terms of masculinity and the way he conducted himself, just behavior. And Christians today are taught this like very soft, like hippie Jesus, right?
Yeah.
And no, he brought the sword of truth or whatever and was
Right.
absolutely blunt, right? And was, irritated a lot of people to the point they got him killed. So
Did you see are you watching The Chosen?
I've heard of it. I don't know.
It's a big show showing the life of Christ as an adult, his ministry right now. He is the best Jesus I've ever seen. I don't like to watch those shows, but the way they filmed it, the storylines are so powerful. But he's very masculine. He'll take on the Sadducees and the Pharisees, the religious leaders, but then he's so gentle and kind to Mary Magdalene, the prostitute, and his disciples when they mess up, he was definitely masculine, Jesus was, and his disciples.
But that's not what kids are taught today. I grew up like Catholic, like I told you, and that's not in any way, shape, or form the depiction of Jesus Christ that was given to me in CCD class, even in church and stuff. It was very, very bland, very boring, and very like, there was no character to it. Nothing like what Michael Foster talks about, nothing at all. And it's
all about love. They forget the justice of God.
Yeah.
They forget that side.
I mean, women can go to hell for premarital sex, right? It's a sin. If you're not forgiven for it, you go to hell for it, right? My understanding.
Well, you go for hell for any sin, but that's why we all need a savior, because we all sin, But if they repent from any woman who completely promiscuous, had abortions, she repents and believes in Jesus Christ and begins to walk in his ways, she's saved for eternity.
Well, the issue I take with, like, you're a hardcore Christian, I call it, and I love it. Michael Foster is a hardcore Christian. That's how Christians should be.
Because you like our values. You like biblical values.
Oh, I love them. Yeah, they're fantastic. Yeah. And the fire and brimstone and the justice like that, and the love too, that's fine. But there has to be much more to it now. Like you're saying, they oversimplify it to the love.
And he wasn't a pacifist. I mean, God, if you read the Old Testament, I told you about Sodom and Gomorrah, what he did to them. Yeah. Wars, he had his people go in and slaughter whole nations because they were so wicked, So he's pro-gun. He wanted his disciples to go out with a knife, a sword, to defend themselves.
Yeah.
Like one popular Christian pastor doesn't believe that we should have guns or defend ourselves. So it's like, so you're just going to let someone come in and rape your wives and steal your kids? That's so ridiculous. No, my husband would do anything to defend me. He's masculine man, though. Thankfully.
Yeah, and not only that, he would protect your children and grandchildren, and I'm sure
absolutely he would do anything. That's why he wants to buy land for them mostly. Because they're a lot younger. He wants to have a place for them to go if need be.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens in the coming years. It's so wild. Like, I'm thinking 30 years out trying to destroy feminism, but I'm also like, I don't even know if the country is going to hold together for another 5 or 10 years at this point. I don't know. The money could collapse. The economy could collapse. Wars, biological wars, obviously, like we saw last year, maybe.
And then women are going to quickly find out they need men. When this economy crashes and they're unsafe, they're going to need men. They're going to wake up to all the lies of feminism. And all their careers that they worked and spent all their money on are worthless because the economy's crashed. It's all going to be worthless.
The issue too is a lot of men are waking up to how women have changed, how feminism has destroyed various elements of culture in America, especially, but beyond. Canada, it's very similar in Canada and Australia and stuff. And I don't know what men are going to do, because men are so, that's why they love your content. You're speaking truth to the internet in general, but it's also to these young men. They're hearing you. You're talking to women, but they're listening to you anyway, right? And what you're saying is so rare, and so unfortunately so rare that, like, but the men know this though. The men in our manosphere community that I'm a part of, Michael Foster and stuff speaks to, like, they're aware of all these issues, and no one outside of our community rarely speaks to it. And that's why they love you seeing on the channel. You're saying what every young woman needs to hear.
I know you
They're
shared
huge
my
fans.
video the other day, and
Yeah.
I saw like thousands of likes, and like I don't even
Yeah.
get up to 100 thumbs down yet. And it's like, no
Yeah.
way! Like on
They
my
love you.
video, on my little video channel, you know, I have to stop comments and take away thumbs down after 2 days because I start getting attacked by trolls, and the thumbs
Look-
up way outweigh. And so I say, wow.
Look at
these
this
men-
one. I posted this morning. I posted the meme this morning that you made,
Uh-huh.
to our channel. It has like the community tab. You have it on your channel too.
Yeah.
So in 6 hours, that has 1.4 thousand likes and 163 comments. That's really high. Like, that's amazing because men, they know this is true. They love it. They love to see it. Your video even has like over 1,000 comments on it that I put out just the other day.
Yeah.
And it's all positive. They
I
love
know.
it.
I was reading through them too. I've been reading. In fact,
Yeah.
I have a post going out tomorrow.
Okay.
Linking to that and some of the comments from under that. And I was reading to my husband the other night, some of them. And it was just like, this is so refreshing. I never get this, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because to have so much support is just amazing. I get a lot on my Facebook page, a lot of support in other places, but I get so much feminist. I don't know if do the feminists not know about your channel?
They kind of do. They come like last year. We made a lot of them very angry. So for a while, we had, I would say, a couple thousand that were really antagonistic. They're trying to get the channel taken down. They were reporting all the videos, and they were.
Oh yeah, that's what they do to me all the time. That one that you shared last night, that was reported by probably thousands and thousands about not denying your husband sex. Yeah, and it was amazing that YouTube didn't take it down. Yeah, because they say, when I teach women to not deny their husbands sexually, I'm teaching marital rape.
Yeah, it's nonsense.
They're so deluded and so deceived, and they can't even see reality. No, it's loving your husband. It's wanting the best for him. It's pleasing him. But they can't even understand that because they have such a hatred for men. Yeah, they've been taught such a hatred for men their whole entire lives, and it's really sad.
I think YouTube is reluctant to. I mean, they could do anything they want. They're crazy, right? These big tech companies, they're out of control. Look at Trump. They got taken off the internet. But I think with you, you're an older woman and you're very Christian, and they're reluctant to. There's a war on Christianity in America, no doubt.
Oh yeah.
But even considering that, I think they're reluctant to attack religious videos, particularly with a woman, because of the victim hierarchy kind of thing. Like you're a female, you're oppressed, right? And you're a grandma, and so I think that's part of the reason why you flew under the radar with that. They just don't want to. They don't want to cause a media storm that hurts them, basically.
I know I'm not under the media on Facebook and Instagram because I've been in Facebook jail multiple times, and but I know the words now. I cannot use on Facebook. I cannot use a couple words at all, or else I'm immediately. And Instagram, it's just.
They banned our page for Make Women Great Again after it only had a couple hundred followers, but it had a lot of hate followers. And they reported every post that I made. Like I posted your meme there. They reported that. I got taken down. So they kept, we lost the page, but I didn't really care. It was small. But I knew
they might take down everything of mine. And I have my blog, which I pay a lot for, but who knows, that could go too, the way, and I tried the alternate, the Gab and MeWe. And I like Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and Twitter.
Your Twitter is great. It's so easy for me to retweet and share. Just keep going. So.
Yeah, and it's kind of the way I like to write. I like to write kind of short and sweet. Yep. Really, that's my favorite way. So when I was at, my husband said, you should write a book. I was like, but because I don't like to, that was a labor of love, absolutely. But Twitter's really good because anything pops in my mind, I'll just put it on there. Now I don't have to put up with the comments, and it's great.
Yeah, hopefully things improve. Our governor in Florida obviously he passed the bill recently or signed it, fighting big tech, and Texas is now, I think, moving to do that as well. So the states are moving to.
Why aren't all the GOP governors doing that? I don't get that.
A lot of them are fake. A lot of them are rhinos, we call them, like a Republican in name only. And even in Texas, I don't, their governor's okay, but he's not. He's like a wannabe, Ron DeSantis. DeSantis is one, and Kristi Noem is good too, from South Dakota. She's great. Yeah, she's. I haven't met her or anything, but I've watched her. When I saw her speak at the on the 4th of July with Trump, back in 2020, I fell in love with the state. I traveled there like soon after. I spent like a week and a half there, just enjoying South Dakota. I'd never been to the Midwest before, and it was so beautiful, and some feminine women too. I found the
But
culture.
she didn't sign the bill about not allowing transgender women.
Ooh.
I always can kind of forget what that means. She didn't sign the bill that men can compete with. To forbid men from competing with women,
Okay.
and that's why I think men like DeSantis and Trump, they'll stand up against the threats and all that stuff more than women will. Women cave more easily to the threats to their family or whatever. And
well, that's part of how God designed you, to be more agreeable, right? To be a better mother and to be a better parent. So this is by design.
Yeah.
As far as, by the way, you mentioned women voting earlier. I'm not exactly on the same page, but I'm close. I do think women voting is very dangerous and it can kill nations. And since women have gotten the ability to vote in America, I don't even think voting is a right. The founding fathers and the founding generation, they didn't view voting as a right. It was viewed like jury duty. It was viewed like an administrative function of your local government, or just being a man, basically. It was very like jury duty. Like, it was something you had to go do. It wasn't this sacred right, like the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It wasn't like that. So I think it is very dangerous for women to vote. They do vote very lefty, and I think that's due to the way your brains are wired, to be more security focused and not think long term. You're thinking short term, resources, things like that. Men are thinking about independence and freedom and the ability to create and work with their hands and be conflict and competitive and stuff. That's why they vote this way. So I think, though, there's other solutions without abolishing like the 19th Amendment. I think if only married people, for example, voted, that could be a good thing. I think if
married women vote more Republican, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or only taxpayers voted, or only military veterans voted, or you raise the voting age to like 30.
Or property owners. I definitely think it should be just those who pay taxes. Because what's happening is those who don't pay taxes are voting money into their own pockets. And that was warned about from one of the founding fathers almost, you know?
Yeah, so I think there's mechanisms. I don't want to, my reluctance is to eliminate an American's ability to vote based on the way they're born. So I do think women voting is very dangerous. It'll kill the United States or any country. But I think there are mechanisms like taxpayers, veterans, different things like that are very serious. Those are big changes that I think would offset the negative elements of women exerting political power by voting, which is what that means. You know, politics is a management of violence. What are our cops going to do? Law enforcement, military, congressmen, governments, governors, like that's what voting is. It's exerting violence into the culture. How is violence going to be managed? You know, laws.
Well, you know, voting, women voting, if you read the posters from the anti-suffrages